What's up, YouTube? It's Mr. Ferguson here. Finally, we're doing our on location and we're at our first stop, the president of Holden Farms HOA, Mr. Kevin.
Well, thank you,
Glad
Mr.
you're here.
Ferguson.
Everybody's been asking, Mr. Kevin, when do we get Mr. Kevin? We got his beautiful lawn here in the background. I'm excited. Like I told you guys, it's been in my head, hey, we need to go to different people and display them, because I'm doing my own thing and you guys have seen my yard to death. But Mr. Kevin, we're here. We're gonna ask him a few questions. We're just sitting here in the lawn. Thanks so much for letting me do it. Everybody on YouTube peer pressured him, Mr. Kevin, do it. Actually, nobody did. You guys failed me. So he was like, no, I'll do it. But thanks so much for letting us come over and invade your yard and set the camera up. So anyways, Mr. Kevin, tell the fine people of the Mr. Ferguson channel just a little bit about you and this beautiful property.
Well, thank you. And I want to say, I love your channel. And
well, I appreciate it.
Quite honored to be featured here. I don't know how I got this lucky, but I'm not going to say anything.
Oh, hush.
Other than the fact I live across the street from you.
Right.
Just for context. So I bought this property in 2008, and I joked. I've always joked that when I moved in, my yard washed away the first weekend I lived here.
Yeah.
And at the time, I really didn't care.
Right.
And so I went years and years and just let it go. And I'm kind of ashamed to say at one point I even paid someone to mow my grass.
Yeah.
That's an embarrassing moment.
No.
But sometime in 2018, my yard guy quit.
Yeah.
Not me. He just quit, mowing yards completely.
Right.
So I decided, well, I'm going to take this on myself.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was mowing dirt, which is,
Yeah.
you probably know
I've
that's
been
not
there.
much fun.
Some of y'all have been there, I'm sure, or might be there right now.
So in 2019, I hired True Green,
Yep.
and they came out for a season, and I kind of realized, and that's when I started watching some of the YouTubers, Pete with GCI Turf, shout out to him, great guy,
Yep.
the Lawn Care Nut,
Yep.
and several others, and then of course your channel.
Woohoo!
And
Probably my first subscriber, by the way. I don't remember, but it was either my wife or Kevin, one of the two.
it was single digits.
Yeah.
We'll say that. And I pretty much realized that for what they charged, I could do a heck of a job,
Mm-hmm.
and do it for less.
Yep.
So I kind of went full bore last year.
Mm-hmm.
I started, just like a whole lot of you with a Scott's 3-way.
Yep.
And
Yep.
saw results, and I was hooked.
Cool.
And here I am now, and I'll be honest with you, the way my yard looks right now is it's
Night and day.
almost the first time I'm seeing this, because I just mowed it today and I came out here this evening, and it's almost popped up, so it's kind of neat to see.
It is. We were just saying before we started filming this, his yard has been completely different than 2019 when I did my yard, it's 2019. Mine, when I planted it, it just boom came up that fall, 3 weeks, and I was off to the races like, oh my goodness, Mr. Kevin's wasn't that way. And I was like, man, I told him everything that I did and it just didn't turn out the same. It was a little different. But his, my goodness, hopefully while we're talking, you guys are either seeing the clips or we're gonna roll that here in a second, but you'll definitely get to see it. We did some of the footage today around 2 o'clock because I'm thinking, okay, maybe the lighting will be better, but we just walked over and we're filming this around 6 o'clock, and man, if you can see behind us, it is awesome looking. So what's the latest things you've put on it to make it look this good?
Well, the things I started out with this year is I did an application of lime.
Right.
My pH was low, but I did one with a calcium additive. Because calcium was another thing I was low in, and I did that around the 1st of March.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did flagship, and what you're seeing, I did flagship about a week ago.
Right.
And this is, today it's popped.
Right. It
So
really has.
I will, and I've always believed in mowing, and any lawn looks better after you mow, but
Right.
I don't know what kind of magic juice I put on it today, but it worked. So.
It really goes to show you guys about soil tests, what Mr. Kevin's talking about. He got a soil test done, saw the deficiencies kind of in his own words, calcium was one of the things he decided to tackle. And that makes a big difference. Your soil test is almost like a cheat sheet. It tells you what your soil needs. And if you address those needs, the flagship and all that with all those micronutrients, it really, man, he's 100% correct. I get to look out my window in my devotion room every morning. And I'm like, man, we noticed that slow release flagship that he's put down, just like in my yard, is just, man, the green is just incredible. So hats off to LCN for that product. His backyard, by the way, you want to tell him about the backyard and the drainage things, like what's your future plans for the home?
Yeah, the backyard has kind of been my nemesis. We'll probably see that in a few minutes. My greatest enemy, POA,
right.
has kind of moved in back there. So,
amen.
Up here, not so much, and I'm very thankful for that. And especially when you cut it down, you really can't see it. But,
right.
So one of the things I want to do this year is there's some drainage, because I don't know if you can tell on camera, but we're kind of sloping downhill here.
Right.
So I catch a lot of water runoff from my neighbor. So we'll probably look at possibly a French drain to stop some of that.
How would you motivate or help or encourage anybody out there that's maybe decided this spring, I want to have a new yard this fall? What would you say to them?
Well, I kind of dabble in investing in things like that, kind of as a hobby. And one of the things that they say that, the best time to start investing was yesterday, and the second best time is today. Yeah. And that's what I would tell folks is, if you want to have a better yard this year, start today. If you feel unsure, go to the big box store or get a Scott's 3-way. It's not broken anything yet, so right. I can't disparage it. Yep. It got me started, and I think once you see results, and once I saw results, that lit the spark. Right. And it got me to where I am now. Yeah. And by no means is it perfect. Right. If you focus in, you'll see weeds. In fact, there's a weed between us that hopefully you can't see.
Dead weeds.
Some dead weeds. Yeah. Thankfully to some T-zone. Yeah. But and just keep learning. The lawn care plans that these guys put out, whether it's the Lawn Care Nut or Pete or the Lawn Whisperer has one now. Any of those plans will lay the framework. Follow the plan. It's like a recipe, and I can't cook. Right. Right. Me neither. I'm just going to tell you. So basically, to wrap up, like Mr. Kevin said, if you're just now starting, you can go, like he said, you can go get you a bag of Scotch 3-in-1. Go out there, put it in a spreader, spread it out, kill some weeds. It's going to feed that grass that you have now, the existing grass, and come fall, like he did, you're making the ground, you're making what you have as good as you can for the time being. Come fall, you're really going to do the hard work, so you can get something like what Mr. Kevin has. So appreciate you answering those questions. We've decided we're going to let him do his own little lawn tour here. So we're going to grab the camera. We're going to walk around and let him fill you in on all the details about this gorgeous looking GCI. We didn't even say that. It's GCI turf type tall fescue, front yard, backyard, all around. It's a work in progress. We're beginners here, but let's take a look at the lawn and see what Mr. Kevin's working with. All right, so Mr. Kevin, it's all yours. Give us a little inside scoop on what you're working with here. Well, you kind of spilled the beans. Sorry. It's GCI tall fescue, beautiful stand of turf. It sprouted up. A secret that I haven't told a lot of people. I actually seeded this twice. I seeded it the first time last fall. Right. Nothing happened. I borrowed Mr. Ferguson's. Some of Mr. Ferguson's tools, and I scraped the whole thing up and did it again. Right. The second time it took. So, right. It actually looks really good. Yeah. This spring, especially right in here, it's thick. And of course, if you look across, it looks even better than I could have imagined. Right. And this is, as some would call it, this is my showcase. Right. So I plan to keep it that way. It's looking really, really good. Like we said, his yard, my yard, totally different. His, he did do it twice, but man, his is like slowly developed into what you're looking at, and it just looks, it's the green of the flagship and the iron, the 3% iron and the flagship from the Yard Mastery app he ordered from Alan Hain. Man, it is looking really, really good.
Really good. Not a lot of weeds. He's been killing it. What was you using for your herbicide?
The T-Zone
T-Zone.
SE, I believe that's what it's called.
T-Zone SE. And like you see this guy right here, Mr. Onion, he does not like T-Zone. So, yeah, looking good. And tell us about your berm, because I remember you saying something. We can walk this way. I remember you saying that's going to be the best looking thing in my yard, and not the case. It's thrown you for a loop, huh?
Well, it's interesting when I aerated this section, I couldn't pull any good cores. I mean, it's almost like it was on a bed of concrete. And,
right.
But it's worked out, and that actually greened up first.
Right.
This season. So, of course, you see the ditch, which is not as clean as I'd like it to be, but that's definitely something I want to work on going forward, and maybe trim it out a little bit better.
All right, it's a beautiful night. We got action in the neighborhood. We got families walking. We got cars coming by. So you guys know you live in neighborhood. So Mr. Kevin, all right, well, let's talk about this strip over here, property line. It's looking really good. I know they came, tell them about, they came recently and did some utility work here. And Mr. Kevin, I think, did you throw seed out after they did that?
I actually threw some seed out, and so you can see where the fescue kind of starts into the other property.
Yeah, over
I had a
here.
little bit extra seed left over, so I threw a little bit out. And
yep.
So it's amazing what just seed will do, because I didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
But this is the side I think I was talking about that I may explore a French drain or something, because this side gets really soggy, especially going toward the backyard.
Right.
In fact, there's some tire tracks back there now that I'm not quite proud of. So that's something that I'll probably work on toward the end of the summer.
Right.
And maybe look at doing something different there.
We did the aerator. You saw me. Go back, watch the video where I said, "There's Mr. Kevin behind me over my shoulder plugging away." This is all from this past fall. So this is all within what? This is less than 6 months, somewhere around 6 months. This is the yard he had. Now you can go back. We didn't really, what we should have done, and what I'll try to do in the future, well, it's too late because he's going to have a nice yard from here on out. We should have came over and did it before.
I burned down this section because there was a huge bare section. Actually, there were some warm season grasses back here. That was the primary reason I burned it down, because that was the only way I was going to get rid of them. Right. Is to do that, and I didn't want to do it, and as a result, there's a lot more POA back here than what's in the front yard. So that's something I'm going to have to contend with. Of course, you see a big patch there, and there's actually 2 rows of it of grass that I think I remember telling you that I didn't, grass just didn't come up there. Right. And, so that's 2 rows of POA right in the middle of my backyard. Yep. Now, so.
And if you're watching, you guys obviously can relate. When we're looking, I've got the widescreen, you can tell. It's just like my yard. You see where right here in front of me, just because of the lighting of the camera and everything, where it's lighter. Typically, if you're a newbie, if you're new, you're like, what are they talking about? Where the lighter splotches are, typically that's where you're going to find POA. But as you guys know, as Mr. Kevin knows, as the temperatures warm up here in spring, this stuff is going to begin to die off. And some that's why some people in springtime will throw some seed down. But as me and Mr. Kevin have talked about as well, doing that, yes, you can be successful if you really manage it, fertilize it, try to get those roots as deep as possible. But here in central North Carolina, he'll tell you, man, it can get brutally hot, 98, 99. And if those roots are not deep enough, it's gonna eat it up. But overall, we can get like this and say, oh my goodness, look at the weed. But look at, guys, this is gorgeous. I mean, he's saying the backyard needs help, but I'm telling you, you guys comment below. This is a gorgeous backyard. First 6 months of GCI turf seed being planted. I think he's done an excellent job, and I think you guys will agree. So we're plugging along around here. I didn't want to walk in his yard without permission. So what else you want to tell us? Look, everybody like his shed. Comment about that awesome looking shed. So it's got solar panels up top. I'm just kidding.
Well, they're dirty skylights, but
skylights.
We'll call them solar panels.
So you got this is the second time I've ever been back here. It wasn't long. I just came back here. I think after the day we picked up the aerator, I'm like, I've never walked back here. I've never even paid attention to Miss Cindy is our neighbor. I've never even seen her backyard. But so this is the backyard. As you can see, it's getting 6:30ish probably, but gorgeous. I mean, yes, there's POA. Yes, there's going to be weeds, but guys, it looks awesome. It looks really good to me. Really good. I'm highly impressed. He did the work, but it makes my heart happy that I've, obviously looking across the street, like, man, what I told him, I've even prayed, like, Lord, well, I told Kevin everything I did. Why is his yard not jumping off like mine did? It's just, but now spring, and the fert that he put down is just really, this yard has really literally been jumping off in the past week or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, it took off since last Tuesday. I think is when I put the flagship down, and I've seen the results from there. There used to be a deck back here, so that's why you'll see the concrete looks a little funny, because that's where the deck posts were.
Man, I mean, this right here looks good to me. I mean, it's like pretty color, man. That flagship, just remember, flagship is slow release. It really has impressed me, and Mr. Kevin said the same thing. He's like, holy crap, did you put flagship down? I said, yeah. He's like, I'm about to get some of that. And I'm not product placing, guys. I'm telling you, I put it down for the first time. I've got another bag in my shed, and I'm anxious to get it thrown down, because this, like, that section right there just looks awesome to me. Like the way it's cut and everything just really looks good.
Yeah, I got super excited using the Carbon X products last year. Of course, they're no longer available, but I think that helps too, is when you use a product and you see a result from it.
Right.
I think that really helps. And the flagship has some iron in it.
Right.
Which, going back to my soil test, that was something that my yard was very deficient in, was iron. So that's something that I'll be adding with just about every application this year.
To finish it off, we'll circle around. If we want to do this, we can look at his side. Yeah, there's a little bit of POA, but I mean, it's not, you literally have to come and walk in his yard, which you're not going to do, or you'll be shot. Just kidding. But you have to literally look down at it and say, oh my gosh, POA, it looks great. It's not going to be perfect. And this is after 1 year. This hasn't even, like, hey, I've been seeding GCI turf for 3 years. This is 1 year, and you can clearly see, the green versus the fertilized versus the unfertilized, the seeded versus the unseeded. And it's not perfect, but it definitely over time is going to be. I mean, really, really coming along. It really is.
Yeah, and this, actually I've got a couple of in-ground pop-up sprinklers here. Kind of a neat little system from, I believe it's Rainbird, where you plug a garden hose into it, and it'll pop up.
Cool.
Another thing I'd like to do is kind of trim out around the HVAC, because that's really a pain to weed eat that.
Yeah.
And not only that, some of these lines you don't want to puncture them. So
yep.
Probably do some kind of river rock or some feature like that in this general area.
Yep.
And other than that, we'll just keep plugging along. So.
Well, guys, we had Mr. Kevin's back neighbor, Mr. Charles. You can probably tell by the way the sun has already went down and it's not quite dark, so we wanted to finish. But Mr. Kevin, I'm going to shake your hand. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You guys comment below. His yard is beautiful. As you can see behind me here, there's this front yard we're walking back into. It's even darker, of course, here, we'll walk this way. It's even darker, obviously, when the sun goes down, but it's looking awesome. Here is the, man, makes me want to go out there and hit a 7-iron. So, but I won't do it. So, there's Mr. Kevin. Everybody's been asking for him. There he is. Thank you guys for watching. Mr. Kevin subscribed. You should be like him and subscribe and tell your friends. So anyways, thanks so much, Kevin. Beautiful yard. It's coming along. We'll try to update you as we go along. This won't be the first time. I think the next on location I do, we'll go hit up my dad. He's got a totally different yard. This is turf type tall fescue, where my dad, as I told you guys, he's a Kentucky 31 guy, the thicker blades. He's been doing the same thing all the time with his 10-10-10 fertilizer. I'll let him give you the details. But thanks so much to Mr. Kevin. We'll see you on the next video.